Gaze the stars and seek your path.
Banning.
Horology is my craft.
Your team
Diggy is my
banning.
name.
Hello and gentlemen, welcome. You all are watching the IESF World Esports Championship Road to Riyadh. We have got two amazing teams right now up in front of us. Team Nigeria versus Team Ivory Coast. One of the most anticipated matches out there, ladies and gentlemen. You've got me as your caster, Scared Yet, and I'm going to be bringing you the action, which is going to be super fun and fully packed. We'll be jumping into the draft of this game right away with seeing a couple of bans on the way already, with Louis, Rizla, as well as Camilla taken off the boards, while again Fredrin and Diggy being taken out from the other side. I'm pretty excited to see how this will eventually turn out, but yeah, at the end of the day, I'm also expecting them to just ban out all the main meta heroes and not change a lot of things out there, but we'll see how everything is going to turn out at the end of the day. But here's the thing, right? I always love to see whenever teams ban out that Fredrin, because again, it's just one of those super annoying picks where we can't really just change a lot of those things, right? You know that he's going to be so solid into that early to mid game, plus at the end of the
Malachi enters the scene. I see lots of prey.
Your team is picking.
Tremble
I
before
will
the
find a
might
way,
of Taurus.
even when
Your
all is
team is
forlorn.
picking.
Exorcist of the dragon spirit
Your
here.
team is banning.
Magic is my life.
Your team is banning.
Then, a bit of a small error, we finally fixed everything and we are back again to enjoy the action. I was already talking about how solid a Fredrin is, but honestly, looking at the next few bans that are coming in, a Camilla as well as a Paramis on the other side, we've got a Harith and Xbox. Kind of like it, but again, looking at the picks for the Yuzhong as well as the Roger along with the Akai, they're looking pretty solid with Yuzhong in the hands of BMK. I really want to see how solid he's going to perform into that EXP lane, but a good answer, I would say, from the other end of the spectrum, though. I really do not want to face a Barats whenever he's out there, specifically along with that early game. You already know how solid it is, but again, I like the pick of Akai and Roger, because at the end of the day, you've got a couple of flex pick as well, because either of them could be used in the jungle or could potentially be kept in their own respective lanes, right? Like the Akai can play as the roamer, Roger can play as the gold laner, and seeing how the way they banned out a carry as well as the Harith, they're trying to choke down that gold lane as much as possible. So Aizen on the other side, I think so, since they're already locking down that mages, might as well want to ban out the Valentina. That could potentially be a pretty good counter.
Who said there are no shortcuts in life?
Your
Target the
team
roam this
literally
time around,
invented
they
one.
take away the chip, they ban it out. I feel that's absolutely fine, because again, Akai can still play into the jungle using that retribution, and honestly is a pretty good way to answer a Barats on the other side because of the heavy spins You can eventually
The
try and
choice is
zone
mine.
everyone else out of that Lord Pit. But now picking up the
Sand
Xavier, they
rises
really want to
when I
play
give
in
the
that
word.
front-to-back situation where the Yuzhong and the Akai will be jumping in, diving forward, along with Roger as well, using the Lycan bounce. But I love this Khalid. As again, the Yuzhong will be in that lane. Khalid is the one who will have a lot of advantage and will eventually be able to slowly shred Yuzhong down in the early one with that desert tornado. You know it's going to be super insane, specifically in the damage. The win condition is set straight. Make sure that the Khalid snowballs along with the Barat's early game aggression, and do not let the Roger farm. That's the win condition coming right into this game whatsoever. Not looking left, right, or center. That's how they would really
Time
want
and
to play. But
tide
again,
wait for no
they were
man.
showing
Your
him the
team,
Clint.
North
I
girl.
guess I could have been okay with the Clint, but now picking up the Beatrix. I like the damage. I like the idea where it is going. But at the same time, it still feels that Beatrix could eventually be taken down by the Yuzhong, or also maybe the Roger in that sense, because again, they would eventually try to dive in on Aizen. He would be facing a lot of troubles, but now to close everything out, they're going to lock in their jungler
upon
because we
the
can see the
edge
spell.
of the void.
It's going to be a flicker on the Akai, petrify onto the Yuzhong, and they lock in the Nolan. I love this draft. I really like what they're trying to do at this point. And yeah, they've got pretty solid amount of damage, but I still want to see how they're going to burst through that front line, because on the other side, even they have got a front-to-back composition if you really want to talk about it. They've got Khalid who will be jumping into that back line. You've already got a very tanky, bulky Barats in front of you. There's also the Minotaur with the Minoan Fury that you know will be landing in as soon as he sees the Beatrix is in problem or is feeling threatened. We'll be just making sure to see how it will eventually pan out. And ladies and gentlemen, I am really excited for this game, to be honest, to see how this series go and to see how everything are gonna fall into places. It's a super fun matchup between, again, a Nigeria and Ivory Coast, which you do not want to miss, as it's the IESF World Esports Championship Road to Riyadh. This is an opportunity that a lot of teams they wait for, and in this series we will eventually see how things pan out. And with that said and done, we move directly into the game number 1, people. Nigeria on the blue side taking on Ivory Coast on the red side. The Rats starting on the purple buff right from the get-go. But here's the thing, right? In terms of jungle clear, Nolan is the one who has the maximum advantage. So that's where I would want to see Ivory Coast capitalize on. But again, Nigeria, it seems to be one of the fan favorites out there. A lot of people, they kind of love to see how Nigeria plays out. And you would normally understand why. Their drafting is working pretty solid. But yeah, at the end of the day, it's again Khalid's early game, right? You know you need to capitalize on whatsoever. Kind of like the idea again, but one of their main win conditions would also be to make sure that Aizen farm. He is not lacking behind in that farm. In that situation, you really want your creators to scale up as quickly as possible, because again, Shin on the other side, on the Xavier, he will be the main late game target for even the Khalid as well as the Minotaur. They would want to try and knock him up, but there's the thing, Roger would always try to jump into your light. So I like the layering that's going to come in from the side of Ivory Coast, but at the same time, you always love to see this kind of aggression, right? Barat want to try and fight early as quickly as possible. The fracture were used up. Now Chris seems to be in trouble. Pretty low in that HP will be taken down to the first blood. There comes in Shin with the damage, but also that Splash will be running away to safety, making sure that he survives, not getting traded out. A good pick already coming out in the early game from the side of Ivory Coast. Shutting down the Khalid is one of their main win conditions, but that is exactly what he's doing. Black Dragon Bomb now trying to steal the turtle away. The Retribution used up perfectly on time. That's going to be Varaz securing it along with the Ritnas. Welcome. They want to try, but Big Daddy has been taken down. And that's Nolan who eventually went in for the trade, but It's not before BMK himself fell in that situation, and you can see so very quickly the rotation that came in. The speed, how he took the turtle fight and then went in directly towards the orange buff. Beautiful performance coming in from the man. We'll have to wait and see how this, again, early game momentum gonna pan out for this side, because at the end of the day, you really do not want your Khalid to die whatsoever, right? You really don't want the Khalid to be in a situation where you're trying to find as much value out of it as possible. And again, on the other end of the spectrum, there's late game insurance coming in on your side with Eisen on that Beatrix, who, as we've already mentioned, need, if not to out-farm Vinci, but at least to keep up with that farm. Crest for now will be stunned in. But just a bit of a damage being exchanged, but now this was unanticipated as Nitona's was brought in on BMK, and again he was deleted so very quickly. The fracture comes in, but this big bulky Parat is going to survive no matter what. So the win condition, as we already mentioned, is going to be exactly the same for Ivory Coast, and that is going to be to make sure that Shin farms up and Vinci on that Roger builds up the Trinity. Really want to see him building up that Trinity in order to chunk down that tanky front line that's coming in. Yeah, at the same time, Sturgeon coming in on board. Flash will be moving backwards, trying to open up the map for his team. Roger has already started to make his own rotation over down bottom towards the turtle itself. Already in that mid lane, the Black Dragon form now being used up to zone out everyone. Already half HP that Barat, so we will have to make sure that otherwise with Big Daddy you do not really want to get chunked down in that situation. There comes with a heavy strength. Early on though, they would want to try take the fight in the situation where the turtle is already down to last one of 60, but for now Flash seems to be in trouble as he's been running backwards. Fresh trying to catch them off guard as well, but Detona's will come landing it perfectly, stunning a couple of people, and that's the killing spree progress. Takes one, and that's going to be BMK falling the next in line. But still, Nolan wants to take the fight, uses the red tree, but it's a double kill for Crest. And even the turtle was slain in by Big Daddy. And they are making some big plays out there in Nigeria. It's a best of 3 situation, ladies and gentlemen, and already the advantage seems to be for the people who've got the flag in green and white. We're gonna have a quick check at the itemizations as well. Wind Talker is what Roger has made, so he's going in for that burst damage, going in for that one full burst. Since Eisen as well as Soul Reaper would have to be careful, they would have to play it smart. Shin quickly going in for the Enchanted Talisman as well, making sure that he'll have that itemization as quickly as possible, because he needs the Lightning Punch into, and that's what you would want to build onto him. Trying to find some value on this jungle road, because his jungle has been stolen away in this time by Big Daddy Hades, right? Because in this situation, that's what you really want. The early snowball of Barat, but for now, Roger trying to jump away from the Benevolent Fury. He survived. Rockets as well dodged some good maneuver out there, but he needs someone to bail him out, and there's absolutely no one out there. Vinci sent to the Vinci's realm. Not here in the land of Dawn, at least. He's gonna be waiting to be respawned now back in the fountain, and that's the kind of early game snowball you really wanted to see on the Barat. Sade is now picking up the Thunderbelt as well. Full of important items. They really want to try and take down the tier 1 on top side, right? Flash is the only one who's trying to defend it, but again, it's going to be a good heavy spins landing perfectly. They've already managed to shut down Crest, who would now be joining in the fight later on, but I like the value, I like the answer that Ivory Coast are bringing in on the table. Eisen over towards the bottom was deleted by Nolan, and that's what you really want to see. You want to see the Nolan going for the flank. You want to see him trying to find these openings, find these stacks. Because normally BMK would be on their faces. Flash would be just heavy spinning, making sure that the Beyblade fight is just landing in to push everyone out of the arena whatsoever. Metal fusion dance out there, but for now, He's on a bit of a low HP. That's going to be the Dawning Light trying to connect onto a couple of people, but not useful as of now because, again, not enough damage on Shin. They all have been just pushed out of that turtle pit. No turtle yet again, and just because of that, we're seeing goal lead of around 1.6 thousand, 1.5 thousand being built up in the hands of Nigeria. And with the way things are going, it seems they'll be able to snowball this game. But Nolan picking up the Hunter Strike. Good power spike. But again, he would need to find the value by getting into the enemy backline. And at this point, Soul Reaper is not giving him any opportunity whatsoever. And so is Isaac. They're all playing so far back. And now seems to be caught off guard. One off picker being committed, as well as the jump by Minotaur, who will be running away, healing himself back up as well, not to get caught off guard by at least the mystic field of Shin. Almost tried to catch Nolan out there. He almost got caught. So this is what we've been talking about time and time again. Nolan is so very solid in these situations. For now, a couple of shots being connected, taking Roger down to half HP. Vinci will be moving backwards. The Black Dragon form was used up. Flash already catching one person, but now they're all being chased. And this is the kind of composition that they are in. They can try and fight, they can get one, but then their HPs will be so very low that they would have to move back, they would have to retreat. Can't really go in for any kind of re-engage. And for that, they need some tankiness, they need some survivability. So BMK and Flash, they would need to play in for that late game already, since we'll be transitioning into it. Lightning Truncheon now being picked up by Shin, so he will start to dish out the damage, but so will Soul Reaper because of the genius wand that he has. As of now, again, Crest is constantly rotating in terms of the towers as well. You could clearly see it's just a couple of towers being taken away from Ivory Coast, and they themselves have managed to just take one bottom lane tower. They are not being able to push the lanes so very well. Both the teams, they're clearing out the lanes perfectly, but again, in terms of the team fight, you really want to see something very decisive, which for now might seem to be the case. A beautiful Minoan Fury into the penetrate. That's going to be the Eternal Guard being brought up as well, along with the Lycan Bounce, which was used up by Vinci, who will be running away, but already a pick coming in for both the sides. 1-for-1. There we go. Yuzhong jumping in along with the Petrify as well. The Dragon Tail is perfect. Gets another one. Takes down Aizen. That was the marksman. But again, Crest wants to take this fight. Tries to show him the power of the desert, but that is just not enough. The Black Dragon can fly over all those sand dunes. That's it. Flew away on those sand dunes. They could not take away the Lord. Oh my god, that was a pretty nice attempt from Shin along with the Dawning Light, but just the retribution being perfect there from Hades, making sure that he does not miss that opportunity. And Vinci now makes up the Berserker's Fury. So the critical hit route is what he has taken. Still want to see the Great Dragon Spear being made on top of it to make sure that he gets the maximum value out of this build of Roger. But on the other side, Aizen as well, getting up some crucial items now. BMK, he's made up the Athena shield, so would be able to tank a bit more of that poke damage that's always coming in from Soul Reaper. Eternal Guard landing it. Raging Transform connects as well, and backline should be deleted. As of now, Shin finally taken down as well. But on the other side, BMK jumping into the action, taking care of Soul Reaper, reaping his soul away from him. But he still wants to move backwards because, again, they've got a lot to take care of. They get two from that situation. Crest as well as Soul Reaper losing just Shin. A lot of resources being invested out there, but the towers will eventually be pushed down. Already the tier 2 of the bottom side has been taken away by the Lord itself, and everyone's been slowly and steadily pushing up with it. They really want the passive of the inhibitor to be used, huh? Well, at least for now they'd be able to defend whatsoever. Wouldn't say without any major difficulties, a lot of difficulties out there, but Crest now picking up the Malefic Roar would eventually try to dish out some decent amount of damage onto the other side, onto the of Ivory Coast, but here we go. Trying to knock them up. Flash will have to move backwards as again. Black Dragon form was committed. This big red serpent as of now will have to move backwards. Will have to complete that space. This is in his own battle against the Eternal Guard. The Necromancy is real Soul Reaper. Suits the name as well. It is picking up the dominant size at this point. Will eventually make sure that Vinci does not have a very high attack speed. But at the same time, it's more for that anti-regen effect whatsoever. Oh my goodness, Nolan could eventually be caught in that place, but will still run away. The Dawning Light connects onto Aizen, pretty low in that HP as well, but so is everyone on the side of Ivory Coast who cannot take this fight. It's a battle of sustain at this point. And we have constantly seen Nigeria winning it out. Just because they've got Rockstar on the Minotaur. They've got Hades, whose size is basically becoming unparalleled. Also again, Crest on the other side, who's dealing so much damage. He's like always trying to target Shin. Really want to say Vinci in some action at this point. That thing is now picked up by Shin to eventually deal a lot more damage. I wanted to see some holy crystals coming in from his side, but look at the amount of damage that has been dealt by Aizen as of now with the items that is picked up. Already catching Flash half his HP. Black Dragon form trying to catch him off guard. Crest in the meantime finding pick. Well, as well as the Mystic Field, which was used up to stop the pursuit of the big barrage that was coming in. But Fauna is going to be getting his turn onto Vinci, who will try to run away. Cannot use up the Lycan Founts anymore as Aizen wants to try and track any one of them down to try and get those picks. Flash was already taken out, but there we go. Nolan trying to jump in. Fracture not allowed to connect. And the Dawning Light was just a bit too late in that. And the Lord will be secured by Hades whatsoever. Securing the Luminous Lord is exactly what they needed at this point, and our fight impeccable, attempt valiant. Result not in their favor. And now Aizen has also picked up the Wind of Nature, so you know that even if BMK jumps onto him on that Black Dragon form, unless he's got some support coming in from Vinci, he would not be able to do anything against this Nigerian lineup. Now Athena's shield being picked up by Hades to make sure that even though Shin has got his Blood Wings, Lightning Truncheon, that will not deal as much damage as you would hope it would deal. Eternal Guard now connected already onto Yuzhong, and the Raging Sandstorm is also brought in, but along with that heavy spins bringing two people inside the tower itself is insane. Crest will survive though, using the flicker on the perfect time, but it's still a 1-for-1 trade. An EXP laner for a roamer is what they've got. Lord charging on the inhibitor will eventually take it down, pretty low in that HP. And there's still this big chunky barrage. Hades out here showing the power, showing the wrath of the god, who brings in a couple of people with the rocket and some decent amount of damage he's dealt by Crest with the Raging Sandstorm. But the Dawning Light comes in from the other side as the Mystic Field was used up, but again there comes in the Wind of Nature. Vinci will have to run away, but on the other side of the spectrum we will see Nolan taken out of the picture. Still of damage. Where is the Dawning Light? You would want to see it one more time. He uses it, but again the magic defense of Hades is just so high that he could not take him down. Angie on that Nolan, I hope so I'm pronouncing that name correctly, it's just being a nuisance onto the other side, but every single time he tries to catch Aizen, Nigeria is just so very ready for him to jump in, and they're basically catching him off guard. That is a big problem. And there we go, another Dawning Light, but it barely tickles anyone on the side of Nigeria at this point, unless he catches Soul Reaper with it or Aizen with it. And those are the priority targets that I would say. Still have to see how impactful this full lineup can eventually be, because again the composition that Ivory Coast has picked up is basically like a pick-off composition where you want a very messy team fight in which Angie would eventually get an angle to jump onto the back line. But even though Flash is trying to create that, it's just not working out in the favor of his own team because again, because of this constant eternal guard, the raging sandstorm and the Minoan fury, the crowd control is just so much in the hands of Nigeria that Ivory Coast are not being able to deal with it whatsoever. And constantly Soul Reaper using this eternal guard basically means that you've got one additional body to deal with who would constantly deal you some extra bit of magical damage. And the Lord Dance is still happening. They're just moving around the Lord, making sure that they're basically putting that poor soul out there who's got this axe in his hand. I don't exactly call it an axe though, but still, Hades is the one who will basically be dancing around that Lord while all the other members from Ivory Coast will be moving left and right out from that bush. But the fight over towards the bottom is the most important one where you already see Vinci probably being taken down, but the one in front of it's going to be even more important now as again Crest will survive eventually towards the backline. BMK tried to catch Vixana and now he will himself be caught in the action. Constantly knocked up, constantly taken down, and Shane had to use the flicker to try and run away from Crest. And just because of that, the Lord should potentially go in for the side of Nigeria. A lot of those ultimates used up. BMK not there, Vinci not there. And it's all just Flash, Shen, and Angie. Would you try to use the Dawning Light, which was yet again cancelled? He goes in for it again, but there's just not enough damage. The Lord was not low enough. And because of that, it's going to be Nigeria securing it yet again. Not losing an inch whatsoever. Now, got to mask down over from bot because again, there's no inhibitor there. When she picks up the Blade of Despair, this is an important item which we'll be eventually talk about. But no HP for Nolan as of now. Again, an early heavy spins being baited out. They still want to catch Crest though. Uses the Rising Sandstorm only to be landed into the claws of Vinci, which shuts him down. And now losing this one important member will eventually mean that this Lord will eventually pose no value whatsoever. Angie also picking up the Blade of Despair, and Soul Reaper will face the consequences of the overextension. Deleted in an instant, finished off, picked apart, and with that, the Lord has been taken care of. So again, not a lot of value gained apart from the fact that top inhibitor has almost been taken down. So we would eventually see maybe that tower being forced down from the side of Nigeria, but that is again if they really want to. Now since we have already moved into the super late game, the item swaps is something that we will see. For another rock potion being picked up by Hades, so he's gonna get that extra defenses now. Even more defenses on top of already high defenses that you get on maximum stat. Ha! What else do you need? Maybe a power potion in the hands of Crest, which she just picked up. I would really want to see if they have enough gold remaining for the item swaps that we normally talk about. The immortality is being swapped in for the Winter Truncheons, or Winter Truncheons then swapped in for the Rose Gold Meteor to try and sustain for even longer, because they buy a lot of crucial time in the situation where your team is basically facing some trouble. But for now, Hades, just as we were talking about, will pick up the immortality. So we'll potentially be seeing the item swaps for that next fight towards the Lord, which will happen in the next 25 seconds unless we see the Lord dance, and then God knows for how long it's going to last. Because again, the one good thing happening for Ivory Coast right now is the fact that Lord is in the lane, which is the one where they've got no inhibitor. Lord is closer to that lane, and that's what you really want to see, right? Because otherwise you would always have to constantly send a member over towards the far lane of the Lord to clear that wave first and then move towards the Lord. That basically means that you're already at a member disadvantage. That's one of the reasons why you always prefer those side lane inhibitors, which I personally feel are more important than a mid inhibitor. Mid tier 1 and tier 2 are more important than side tier 1 and tier 2s, but the silent inhibitors do provide more value. But for now, we need to find a lot of value with the Black Dragon form. But again, the timing perfectly caught up by Anji. Takes care of Crest, finishes him off as well, and pushes Rockstar out of the pit. They brute force their way in and take them all off the position. But here's the thing, they did use up a couple of major ultimates, at least the Black Dragon form and the Fractures. The Dawning Light is also now used up, but not a lot of damage being dealt. Again, the Aizen has not been caught there. Only just a couple of immobilization that's been happening and nothing apart from that. So even though they got a pick on Crest and not finding any major value, I would really want to see send someone up top, try to force the tier 1, try to force the rotation of Nigeria to move over towards that top side. And then take care of these situations. Bully Crystal now being picked up by Shin. Now that was an important item that I was eventually talking about, but for now, Vinci, he seems to be in trouble. Closes up the road to try and run away. Wants to get some extra bit of movement speed, but the fight over towards the Lord is again important, as we'll be seeing the dance yet again back and forth, and it's already the situation where the tanky front line is going to be a problem. But wait a second, Anji sees an angle. He wants to go in onto Vexana, will be deleting with the Fracture as well, as again comes in the heavy spin. They would want to try and dissect this fight, isolate two different angles where Hades is still trying to survive, but it will eventually be taken down. Maybe not. The heal is just enough, but there's the Shah residue coming into the action. But Fusong jumps into the Nibiru's passion, and Aizen with his big brain play takes care of Shin and BMK. And Anji will have to run away, because Lord is now in the hands of Aizen, and Nigeria are getting away with their way. Flash out there in that bush. Would want to try and go in for a cheeky steal if possible, or maybe a cheeky heavy spin. Last 10,000 HP on Lord remaining now. Vinci is already here. There we go. He jumps in, wants to try and land and tries to steal it, but again, the retribution lands and Hades takes the Lord. Heavy spins being used up to try and run out of the harm's way, but will not be allowed to do so, as the damage from Aizen is just too much for him to handle. And the big brain play from the man who does not even have a Bankai, only the Shikai, is enough to finish all of them off. That's the strength of Beatrix in the late game, and literally just to short you, no matter how tanky you are. That's the build, that's the damage that this build provides. Now feeling coming in from Crest, who just finds out where Anji was hiding, but again, Lord needs to be chunked down whatsoever. Fracture used up already by Anji, so he cannot force the fight in, but we go to Mystic Field along with the Infinite Extension. Trying to catch one person off guard with it. Roger tries to run away, catches Hades in the meantime. Low HP on Aizen. Will try to use some basic attacks, and there we go. The Wind of Nature being used up as well. BMK pretty low, but the Wind of Nature is only for 2 seconds. How are you going to survive 4 when Anji is on your face like that? Fracture to close things out, and Aizen has been taken down. These couple of picks were so very crucial for the members of Ivory Coast in order to survive in this game for a little longer, to try and live, to try and give hopes to their fans. 76,000 to 75,000 gold. Nowhere close. But again, it all now just goes down to the item swaps and how well you eventually do it. Hades now picks up the Winter Truncheon for as long as the passive of Immortality is off. But finally, the map slowly turning red. And the stop inhibitor has been a big life support for Ivory Coast. Had that been fallen, that wave would have also pushed in over towards the crystal. This is what we normally talk about, right? Because normally, yes, the early game win conditions are different, the mid game are different. Normally with this composition, you would want to have a very high early game burst snowball. But Nigeria, even though they had it, Ivory Coast played it for their late game win conditions. They spended those lords, got the picks on the crucial time, and with that, they finally found enough time for Shin to scale up on the Xavier, as well as Vinci on that Roger. Try and find some openings. But that is exactly what he's not getting. Those flank angles is what Angie has been getting because of the mobility that he has. But that has just not been the case with Vinci whatsoever. He's always faced Aizen in front of him, and if it's a 1v1, you could always bet that Aizen will win it when he's got the Beatrix in his own hands. But again, the Black Dragon form now being used up. 3 people trying to run away, but they try to catch at least one of them. And a couple of them now are in the action center. Aizen gets deleted. There comes in the heavy spin as well, but the Daytona's welcome should be there to get the knock up and along with the raging Sandstorm. Where Crest wants to run away, but the healing coming in from his Quicksand Guard will help him to survive. Trying to out-sustain, but the Yuzhong out there will be surviving, but maybe not Vinci, who tries to run away. His immortality was popped in as Hades used up his own Winter Truncheon. Fight has been slowed down. Back and forth fight. Oh my goodness. Angie just playing with fire. With sand at this point, I would say. The Dawning Light used up yet again. Fight being extended for a bit more. BMK wants to try and find some opening, but there we go. The healing comes in. There comes in Vinci trying to jump in yet again. There comes in a very solid pick by BMK onto Crest. And the Yuzhong's Black Dragon form is now back up. Dawning Light try to pop the immortality of Hades. Wants to try and survive, but pretty low in that size. This Barath will have to run back first, but maybe not Soul Reaper, as the soul has been reaped away from him. And the Barath will also be not winning out in his own survival battle. The Minoan Fury to try and delay the inevitable. But it seldom gets delayed for long enough, as it's Vinci with the action. And they get a picture-perfect wipeout. No need for a lot, boys. You can clearly go for the end from the top lane. And that is exactly what they're trying to do. But Aizen is still here. Maybe this guy can save the dream, can save his team. But for how long? Still has to make sure that they survive for the next 40 seconds. Low in the HP with just one Dawning Light is what Shin has to offer. But there still seems to be some confusion for the side of Ivory Coast. They don't seem to be ending it. Finally, they target the crystal and will be able to secure it. Take the crystal away, and that's what you get. A beautiful performance coming in from their side. The sheer tenacity of this team. My oh my. So very close, yet so far, is what you can say for Nigeria. As they did everything that they could, but eventually in the end it was yet again Ivory Coast stealing away the win. Some good itemization coming in from both the sides. Aizen with the BOD. I kind of wanted to see the Demon Hunter sword as well, but considering how there's Vinci, there's also Angie on the Nolan, Shin on Xavier, I don't think so it was required yet again. PMK with those item swaps too, for the immortality to the Rose Gold Meteor. They all tried their level best, but those are changes that I would say required. Everyone made up their own itemization, which was necessary. But I kind of wanted to see either one extra necklace from maybe Soul Reaper, or maybe a Sea Halberd on Aizen, because either of those items would have eventually helped them out to counter the extra bit of heal that was coming in on the other side. But yeah, just have to wait and see how the second game eventually pans out, because this one was yet again pretty solid. We were having so much fun. But we still have to wait and see how game number 2 is going to pan out. But ladies and gentlemen, since we're already waiting for game number 2, might as well give us a short break, as we'll be right back after this one with insane action. Welcome back, everyone. You all are watching the IESF World Esports Championship Road to Riyadh. Again, we've got the team in front of us. Nigeria up against Ivory Coast, and we saw the first game. Nigeria almost had it, but Ivory Coast were the ones who stuck till the end, who showed that tenacity to make sure to never give up. The endurance is absolutely real, and because of that, they've got the advantage in this best of 3 series. But yet again, ladies and gentlemen, we know it's a best of 3 series after all, so you always have to have those game number 2s and potentially the game number 3, where we all eventually have so much fun. But hey, I'm pretty excited to see how the draft would eventually roll out, because in the first game, let's be brutally honest, there was a situation where we saw, the drafts in terms of the early game was very solid for Nigeria, and they also got their early game snowball. But as it transitioned in towards the mid game, that's where you would really want to utilize the extreme strengths of that draft and try to push your way forward. But that is exactly where we constantly saw those annoying heavy spins come into play, right? So I'm expecting that maybe in this situation we're going to see the Akai ban out as we already move into the draft of game number 2, ladies and gentlemen. There's the Diggy ban out coming in. Understandable, as Ivory Coast would want to keep up to their own bans. But on the other side, this time, Nigeria taking away the Roger. They do not want to deal with that shape-shifting werewolf out there in the full moon evening. I hope there's a full moon night out there. Yeah, definitely it is. But yeah, you always like to see these Roger bans coming in, specifically when I really love to play gold lane, right? And that's one of the main reasons why I like it, because when enemy respect bans you, it gives you a lot more confidence. But since we're already talking about confidence, Ivory Coast should also have a bunch of it, because they won out that previous game and made sure that they played to the strengths of their draft. Eventually that Roger working really out for them. Angie on the Nolan as well. He found so much value, specifically later on in the games when he was eventually getting those flank angles perfect. But we're seeing the Minotaur being taken away from the side of Nigeria. They ban it out on the draft, but now this last ban, BMK, who he could eventually ban a Fredrin. All right, I think they might eventually would want to pick a Fredrin up, but this last ban should definitely be a Harith. You do not want that cat boy to go onto the opponent's side, because in terms of the gold lane damage, he has insane amount of damage. To ban him out, or maybe a Nathan, but they decide to ban out the Carmilla. Alright, the curse of blood is maybe too much for them to deal with, but the first picks, I'm expecting them to take the Harith, unless of course Nigeria kind of want to manipulate the draft in their favor. They want them to pick Harith, but it's not going to be the case. Flash is going to lock in his Akai yet again for this game. He was the MVP of the previous one, so understandable, as he was again giving up some good setups to his team. He was helping them out in so many situations. He was bailing them out as well with those heavy spins, and was also making sure that his team gets some good value out of it. To answer that Akai, we've got the Terizla in the hands of Crest this time. No Khalid, no early game damage, but since we're already talking about that, this time Soul Reaper, instead of Vixana, picks up a Lilia.
Yep, it's me,
The Endipsy, the Soul Reaper. Seems like he's a pretty big fan of One Piece as well as Bleach. Understandable. One Piece approved. That's what I'd say. But for now, I think so the Ruby pick would be a bit too early to pick up the Ruby in this stage, because the playstyle of an Akai and Ruby kind of is like opposite to each other. But Shin not picking up the Savior, he found the Vixana open, will lock it in as well. So mages for both the side have been locked in. Really want to see if they actually take the Ruby. Maybe they could also lock in something like a Nathan. They still want to focus down on that EXP lane against the Terizla. They lock in the Yuzhong, and now Aizen would eventually have an opportunity to lock in the Harith, maybe the Nathan for that gold lane, which could help them out for that snowball if they want to, or also could lock in the jungler. But I would really like a Nathan or a Harith in this situation. Would give them a decent amount of magic damage into that side, while also helping them confirm one of their win conditions of the draft, and that is someone should be having that late game scaling, and Nathan is just the man for the job. And now they can also try to choke down that gold lane, right? They can also ban away the Harith, they can take away Brody if really want to, because that would be one of the next best pick, or maybe a Claude, which can kind of chunk down all of those tanky heroes out there, right? But they want to respect Angie. They do not want to let them get their hands on Nolan. Now, the draft that has been picked up by the side of Ivory Coast is almost pretty similar to what they did in the previous game. The Yuzhong, the Akai. So, like Akai, a flex pick, but still would not work out that well now, since Nigeria already know the tricks up their sleeve. But at the same time, I kind of feel like this next ban by Angie should eventually be for a roamer. If they really want to focus down on Akai as their roamer, they could potentially take away something along the lines of Matilda. I was about to say Matilda, they banned it away. Still have an Angela to be picked up though, and an Angela-Nathan combination could be very difficult to stop. They ban out the Barats, making sure there's no tanky front line, but you still have a Basha on the board, which you can pick. And there's again Flash on that Akai, who could eventually hand it over to Angie, who would now play the Akai into that jungle position. But as for any other tank roamers, I don't really see a lot of value which they would bring, unless you're playing a Balmond maybe into the jungle, tank jungle, or again, I think so if you really want to chunk down on it, you can eventually have those assassins if you really want. Just like how Nolan kind of worked out, maybe you could go for something along the lines of Yin.
I literally invented one.
Ling. I was about to say Ling, not Yin. Not a big fan of Yin into that jungle though, I'll be honest. They could go for the Ling, maybe a Lancelot if they're very comfortable on it. But again, these are all ifs, buts, and maybes, right? Chip was banned out. I think so. A pretty good choice in this situation. You really do not want to give the opportunity to the other side to pick up that and bring in all the people out. Oh my god, this is no Hellcut. This is no Hellcut. This is just a cute cat. This is not Hellcut whatsoever. You can't convince me on that part. But alright, kind of like the Moscow pick as well against the Nathan. Though I would still say, against the draft of what Nigeria is bringing, this is not one of the best pick in the line though. Martis, pretty good pick for Hades, the best option right now in the arsenal against what we have on the other side. Can eventually jump towards the back, can also negate the crowd control that's coming in from BMK, from Flash, as well as Shin. So I kind of like the pick of Martis in this. The win conditions are eventually set. Make sure that you've got some early bit of snowball with Soul Reaper and Hades on their own respective heroes. And then make sure that Aizen does not die to win out the game in that late game. That's going to be the win con for the side of Nigeria. But on the other side of the spectrum, ladies and gentlemen, you really want to see some good early to mid snowball coming in for Ranji on the Hellcut. So Ivory Coast will have to play for their own win conditions. The Twisted Fairy Tail Wigzana, one of the most loveliest skin out there. Shin needs to do a lot on the hero that is picked up. He needs to land in those crowd control perfectly, and if not on Crest, if not on Rockstar, if not on anyone else, then on Aizen. Because ladies and gentlemen, we jump into the Land of Dawn for game number 2. We've got Ivory Coast on the blue side taking on Nigeria on the red side. You all are watching none other than IESF World Esports Championship. It's Road to Riyadh, and teams right now in front of us, as I've already mentioned, are Ivory Coast taking on Nigeria. You've got me, Scary, the one who's bringing you all the action live out here. And what a platform to be at. Slow and steady approach is what is going to be the name of the game, but Rockstar needs to be on point. He needs to be perfect with those wild charges. He needs to land in those wild charges on the perfect point to try and give his team some good setups along with the penalty zone, right? So there's a lot of crowd control on the other side too, which you can really pair up. Specifically, just as I mentioned, the penalty zone. You've also got Martis with the Mortal Coils in the hands of Hades. We already know that he does a pretty solid job. But also on the other side of the spectrum, you can get a bit of it from, again, Nathan. And Aizen has already shown some insane skills on the Beatrix, but now he also needs to Be a bit more tenacious. We'll just have to wait and see, ladies and gentlemen, how this is eventually going to pan out. But yeah, at the end of the day, a bit of a damage. Vinci trying to get some early snowball in whatsoever. And I like the positioning that's coming in from Rockstar every single time. He's just trying to mimic where Flash is going on as Akai. So he constantly is providing information to his team, but the death push setup may be coming in. A good amount of clearance there, but again, it's the turtle. We are still seeing only level 3 Soul Reaper. He does not have the black shoes and is pretty low on that mana as well. So they would really need to burst down this turtle early whatsoever. The Dark Nightfall now finally comes in. The Deadly Stingers is there, but the turtle has been secured by Terizla out there, along with the Black Dragon form that comes in, but Crest gets the first blood. Level 4 already on almost all of the players of the side of Nigeria, and they're playing in for their win conditions. BMK pretty low in that HP, but will get some HP back with the Shah residue and will survive from the onslaught of Nigeria. Will be moving backwards and staying alive. Flash still level 3, cannot do anything for his team whatsoever. He had no heavy spins, and this is where the importance of that mid wave comes into play. Whenever you're the mage of your team, you really want that at least one of the wave is taken by your roamer, so that the roamer can get level 4 before the first turtle. That did not happen on their side. And that was one of the main reasons why they could not provide some value in that team fight. Again, Feather of Heaven though being picked up by Aizen quite early on though, already in the 3-minute and 20-second mark. Now that is important, because with this Feather of Heaven, now he will have enough damage to at least going for that early fight. Deadly Stinger, oh my god, that is so nasty. He still stole it away, but again jumps in as well, secures his own gargoyle creep. Hades wanted to do a bit of a jungle choking out there, but was just not allowed. Levi maybe he just was a bit too short. The ODM not get working in his favor as of now. Vinci picks up the corrosion strike, important itemization. He wants to try and get some of that attack speed, but wait a second, Rockstar pretty out in the open though, but it's still got the wild charge, so it's fine. They're trying to just zone away Vinci into that tower, and that is a big problem with the Dark Knight Falls. Now comes in a good knock up, a good wild charge comes into the play as well. Decimation, not enough damage, but the basics attack will eventually do it, as the entropy was also used up trying to take someone out, but the tanky front line is just not falling whatsoever, because Shin used up the Eternal Guard, which soaked up so much damage. And even though Rockstar was low, no one on the side of Ivory Coast could pick him off. And now the Dominance Ice has also been picked up, if I'm not wrong, by Chris, so he will be so much more valuable in those fights. Making sure that BMK on Yu Zhong would not be able to heal as much as we thought he would. But I'm still pretty surprised. Nigeria, they took care of one of the people on Ivory Coast side, but still could not take that turtle. And that's just because of, again, they're pretty much depended on Rockstar with the wild charge to provide some good setups to his team, as well as some good ultimates out there. There we go, another wild charge as soon as the Dark Knight fell. But Akai with the heavy spins will eventually stop Martis. Levi cannot land the decimation hit, but Crest says, I'll do the job myself, along with the entropy of Aizen, who will take care of Vinci. They get 2 for absolutely none. And it's a 4-0 right now in terms of kills, and Nigeria will be looking forward to take this turtle as quickly as possible, while Aizen will try to push out the bottom tier 1, because BMK was in the entire time on top, taking the tier 1 out, while again his team was fighting near the turtle. So now it's again the decision making that is coming in from the side of Ivory Coast that is a bit questionable, but still it's fine as long as they're not a lot behind in that goal. For now, around 2.6k, 2.7k maybe. And that is about it. Angie now picks up the Player of Heptases as well, so good amount of damage will be dealt. Aizen and Soul Reaper would have to keep their steps into the bush with caution. You may never know when the Dark Knight would fall on you. And this one is pretty serious about the vengeance. His skill count is pretty high. Another one who lives in the Gotham City. Jokes apart though, in the meantime, again over towards the top, Crest will be the ones who will be eventually clearing the lane. But there we go, Dark Knight Falls finally comes in, but a good Black Shoes being used up, but the Wild Charge comes into play as well. They tried to catch down Vixana, but Shin will eventually survive. But there we go, the Black Dragon form finally comes in. Dragon Tail does a decent amount of damage, but BMK not having enough to try and knock all of them. The Petrify, if I'm not wrong, did not land perfectly, and everyone on the side of Nigeria, they retreated at the perfect distance for anyone on Ivory Coast to capitalize on that crowd control setup on that Furious dive. Everything is again brought back to that stalemate situation. I kind of like the idea as to how Nigeria is constantly jiggling the top wave. Sometimes it's Crest who's taking it, sometimes it's Soul Reaper, but for now Crest might be caught off position, off guard. But there we go, support coming in from Rockstar. He goes again for the Wild Charge setup, and that's the crowd control that I was talking about with the penalty zone and the entropy. It's a full 5v3 situation where they get 2 out. And will also get the turtle without any contest whatsoever, because again over towards bot is where Vinci is. He should be able to push down that tier 1, but not before their team will eventually lose the tier 1 on top itself, or maybe not, since again BMK is there. He's making sure that the wave is managed perfectly, but the mid tier 1 has been taken away by Nigeria. That is what you really want to see. Crest going 3-0-2, has picked up the Oracle. That means that basically gives him some extra bit of healing, along with the fact that he will be able to tank in a bit of that magic damage that might come in from Shin. We'll eventually see some Genius Wands maybe being picked up on the other side, or maybe some Divine Glaives that you really need. BMK picks up the Hunter Strike. That might do some things for him, but there we go. Heavy spins into the tower. Crest uses the penalty zone to try and survive, lowering that HP. Tries to use his hammer to get some lifesteal, but that is not happening. A 1v3. And is the first one to fall on the side of Nigeria. Finally, the first kill coming in for the side of Ivory Coast, but yet again see some things changing up. BNK used up the Black Dragon form early on though, so here's the thing. It's the big problem coming in for the man himself, that at this point, it just seems that he would need to utilize it to try and jump towards Aizen. Because again, Soul Reaper would use the Black Shoes to try and dodge all of that. So he would need to try and catch Aizen in that situation before he uses the Entropy. You'd really want to catch him in unaware with that Petrify. But again, Aizen is running with the Purify, right? So that is also a thing that you would need to worry about. Finally, we'll be moving over towards the top. Teleporting, to be honest. Pretty low HP on a couple of members on the side of Ivory Coast, as we'll see BMK finally leaving his lane, understanding that he cannot fight in 4 people, cannot defend the tier 1 on that top side, finally giving up on that space, and the goal lead will slowly increase in favor of Nigeria. But it's again a situation where Ivory Coast were the ones who were put in the previous game. So I don't think so they'd be facing a lot of problem. In the meantime, pick over on towards the top as well, but a back and forth coming in as BMK was able to take down Soul Reaper. Also showing the emote, maybe that was the auto emote. I kind of used the same one. Pretty fun. Rockstar trying to just kite around, trying to survive, but oh my goodness, it's just taking a lot of that damage. But in the meantime, Hades was able to take the Lord. He's still trying to survive, uses the flicker, does not have the wild charge, but will survive at least to make sure that he does not give out the advantage to the side of Ivory Coast. Perfect decision making coming in from the side of Nigeria. Lord right from under their noses. A ninja Lord steal. That's what I'll call it. Crest in the meantime picks up the War Axe as well. So this is not a super tanky Terizla. This is a battle Terizla. This is the one that wants to go up front, up close to take those fights. I realize that the Vengeance now finally being picked up will find its value as Hades was taken down. They still try to take care of the Lord. Wild Charge not connecting onto anyone though, but they still try to isolate the fight with Flash, who will use finally the heavy spins to try and run out of the harms, whereas the Black Dragon now joins into the action. He wants to get someone to be petrified of him, but they already keep their distance. And Lord has finally been dealt with. good back and forth trades coming in, but Ivory Coast yet again surviving. I'm kind of getting the deja vu of the previous game as to what happened then, and their dominance is now being picked up by Flash. So his presence into those fights is going to be crucial, impeccable, and every other thing that you would really want to call it. BMK should be taken down, and yes, he will be. No HP for my man, for my Black Dragon out there. So that's his first death though in this entire game. Shin still is surviving. Oh, flicker penalty zone connects onto Angie, who should be taken down as the entropy was enough to take care of him. Flash quickly had to use the heavy spins to go in for that disengage. Cannot afford to face any more damage than they already have, because to defend the entire minion waves that will be coming in onto those tier 2s, you only have Shin. As again, Vinci is pushing out the lane over towards the bot, where he now is alone. Alone he stands, wall out there in front of him to block. Okay, smart move as of now. Had to use the dash in a perfect direction. He's still trying to run away, but the conceal play is coming in. They've noted the position, still uses the dash. Hades is out there stopping his retreat, but wait a second, Vinci will recall in the bush, but the flicker wild charge is there to stop his retreat. Now he's running in the wrong direction. That is not where your base is. But it depends for how long he can eventually survive, because the Dark Knight Falls finally come into the place as well as he uses the Deadly Stingers, forces out the Black Shoes as well. Terizla jumping in, no more penalty zone available, but the heavy spades catches Soul Reaper perfectly, and they get the pick that they were looking for, but they can't really save Vinci at this point, who's just trying to buy time for his team, trying to dodge everything that is being thrown on him. And look at the amount of time waste that he's doing, because everyone on the other side is now focusing down on Lord, and Aizen really wants to go in for the kill. But finally, what we will see, Vinci moving backwards, because he used his Spear of Destruction and used it at the perfect time to dash out of that house, where he's still buying time, but only for so long, as Aizen finally finds him with the super position. But the amount of shenanigans that he did on this Moscow, that was absolutely mind-blowing. But no rest for the wicked is what they have said, and that is the reason why they're going at it again. Lord was taken already, and just because of that, we'll be seeing both of these teams now going back, now retreating. And Nigeria seem to be in a prime position to end this one, to take it home, to take this series to the third map. We're going to see a decent amount of damage now being dealt by Aizen, trying to catch him. But there we go. Flash seems to be in trouble, as yet again, if I'm not wrong, the decimation was also used up by Hades out there. Just a bit of a low HP finally. He'll be able to survive. There was a wall, the Guardian's barrier, but it was just a bit too short. But a lot of shadow energy bombs out there in the open, trying to stop this big chunky Lord, trying to take him down. But yet again, there seems to be the Black Dragon flying up ahead, up above, to save them from losing the crystal. Dark Knight Falls finally trying to connect it yet again onto Soul Reaper, who'll be reaped away. Or on the other side, a good wild charge connecting onto a couple along with the penalty zone as well. And that's a mega kill for Aizen on this Nate, and going a strong 4-0-5 as they go in for the conceal play. Only a couple of more members to deal with, who are slowly trying to save themselves. They will survive as of now, but for how long? Shin does not have the Eternal Guard yet. But Flash has got the heavy spin, still needs to utilize it. Will finally do, trying to catch off guard Rock in an awkward situation, but the flicker was there for Rockstar. But another wave of minions is what has saved their life, as everyone will finally be spawning in. Finally, the things have slowed down a bit too. allow me to take a breath, a sigh of relief maybe. But nothing as of yet for Nigeria, because again, they were in a similar position in the previous game from where they eventually ended up losing. But one good thing for Nigeria this time around is the fact that they've taken all 3 inhibitors. There was 1 remaining in the previous game. But again, Angie on this Hellcut, he needs to find some timings. He needs to find some ways to take down anyone, to catch anyone off guard. But my, oh my, BMK was just obliterated by Soul Reaper down bottom. That's the amount of power this Lilia brings on the table. Black Shoes is just one of the tools. The Shadow Energy Bombs is the second. Going in to take the Lord as of now, at least. So they should be able to secure it because a good amount of vision was being shown by Rockstar. I love the way how they've got such an enormous map control. Black Shoes being forced out of Soul Reaper, so he will eventually be back to safety. But BMK on that Yuzhong will be back in action now, and his Black Dragon form will be super crucial for the defense because that is the only tool that they kind of have. Zone out all the others. Spear of Destruction. Oenten on the other side. There's still an isolated fight up top, but wait a second. Vinci was able to take care of Aizen. That is a pretty big catch. Enormous one indeed, because without your marksman, I don't think so they'd be able to end it so very quickly. Even the Wind of Nature was used up, and Angie dealing a bit of a damage onto Rockstar, but he needs to survive as he uses Dark Knight Falls to try and just circle around that one rock on towards the extreme top. But there we go. Eternal Guard now being used up to delay the Lord a little bit. Finally, there's going to be the Black Dragon form coming in over towards the backline as well, is where we see some decimation, maybe the Mortal Coils, but good heavy spins being used up, low amount of HP on that Lord, but BMK finally has been taken down. So no more Black Dragon for you to bail yourself some extra bit of time and some extra bit of life. Penalty zone used up, catching a couple, but they still try to survive. The minion waves has been cleared, but a mega minion wave from the mid is the one that you have to take care of. Finally, Moskov joins into the fight, joins in the action as well, but a killing spree coming in for Soul Reaper. Takes care of Angie on the Hellcut. A lot of minions will finally be spawning in as well, but the timer hits. It seems to be a perfect time for Ivory Coast to be able to defend this one, because everyone on the side of Nigeria is just so very low in the HP that they can't just seem to close it out. A bit of an overextension coming in from Vinci as of now, as finally Nathan joins into the fight, but Soul Reaper has been taken down. Good amount of damage being dealt by Shin, and Vinci just free hitting Teresa out in the open. He's surviving everything, but the wild charge finally connects. Vinci with that overextension will be sent back to the fountain again. That is a big mistake coming in from Ivory Coast. I was really hoping for them to kind of just hold their horses at this point, and let's be brutally honest, these are one of the longest few games that I have seen. And why not, ladies and gentlemen? Because the stakes are so very high. It's the IESF, after all, the World Esports Championship. Road to Riyadh. And again, for those who've joined us just now, it's Ivory Coast up against Nigeria. Ivory Coast have already secured first match, and that's why they're looking for this game number 2 as well, to close things out in a 2-0 fashion against Nigeria. But Nigeria, the fan favorite ones, are the ones who do not want to give up whatsoever. They're the ones who've got that goal lead of big 7,000, and the ones who've got all the towers of Ivory Coast. So Nigeria seems to be in the prime position to win things, but you never can count out Ivory Coast in these situations. Another Lord finally being picked up yet again as the Black Dragon form was used up, but a bit too late. And now BMK would need to run backwards to safety. But wait a second. He does not want to retreat. This dragon does not know how to fall back. He already knows how to move forward to push everyone else on behind with the heavy spins that's coming into the play as well. BMK finally taken down, but on the other side of the spectrum, you really want your Akai to survive. And they will move backwards, they will retreat, but losing BMK in this situation, that is so very massive. And it seems that it's going to be a big problem as well, because again, the Guardian's barrier was used up. Does not matter if it did not catch anyone, but Finally, it's all going to be on just Flash to try and kite a bit of that damage. Heavy spins needs to be used up perfectly, but Flash is dead. Flash is removed in an instant. The Lord is on the crystal, and they should be able to close it out if they're all targeted, but they want to take their lives of all on Ivory Coast and then move forward to game number 3. Impeccable performance from the side of Nigeria. And it's a 1-1 scoreline, ladies and gentlemen. Finally, we'll be witnessing the game number 3, the much anticipated game 3 between these two teams. That's what you really love. That's what everyone wants to see in this stage. Impeccable stuff. Impeccable, as we were talking about. But hey, this has been a situation this has been such a tiring journey, I'll be brutally honest, because again, games as long as 25 minutes, then another 20 minutes, almost we basically reached the 30-minute mark onto both of them, and it clearly shows you the potential that both of these teams hold. Hence, this is one of the main reasons why we always talk about how important it is to do the research onto your opponent, how important it bit of a network error coming in on my end, ladies and gentlemen. Do apologize for that, but finally we're again, as we were talking about how the draft of the previous game went and how things move forward. Now, I also want to see how we'll see, the changes in the third game itself for both of these teams. Because again, the best of 3 series, you always want to see the action in game number 3 itself, because that's where all the aces that have been kept up the sleeves of the players will be brought out in the open, and we'll eventually be able to witness it clearly. That's what we normally love to see. That's what we always thrive for. Because again, all of those pocket picks that we've been talking about, all of the situations where we mentioned how we would want to see maybe the Harrods being picked up. I kind of want to see the engagement between a Harrod and a Roger into the gold lane and see which one of them will eventually stand out on top and which one of them will basically win out the lane. I kind of also at the same time want to see maybe some stuff like you kind of bring up a Nathan against a Brody in that lane and see which one of them is able to snowball better. Why a lot of situations that a lot of combinations that you can use up, make them, and then basically utilize it in your own draft. I kind of like if basically some teams really want to play, they really want to try and go in for those experimentations. I mean, let's be brutally honest, kind of seen sometimes some players pick up something like a very unorthodox pick for the gold lane as well. Really do not want to spoil out the fun right now, but I kind of want to see some Kaditas into the mid lane as well. Because here's the thing: if you've got something who's got a lot of mobility or stuff where you really wants to burst down someone, you kind of lean in towards the Kadita, right? Because if there's a Farsa on the other side, if there's a Eve on the other side being picked up, you would want to lean in towards the Kadita to try and take them out, to try and burst that backline as quickly as possible, because you can't really stop them in the ocean debt. And then again, there's the rough waves which can deal an insane amount of burst damage, while also could help you bail out, could also bail you out of those awkward situations, of those awkward engagements. But again, these are something that we've been talking about in all the other situations. But ladies and gentlemen, want to move in towards the next draft, towards game number three's draft. So let's quickly have a look at that as we move into the game number 3 between Nigeria, who's now on the blue side, taking on Ivory Coast, who will be playing on the red side. And it seems that like the situation is, if you blue, you win. If you red, you gotta try harder next time.
I see lots of prey.
Your team is
Or maybe it
banning.
has been the opposite situation. If you're red, you win. If you're blue, you got to try harder next time. Let's see. Let's see if Nigeria is able to close it out or not. I mean, sometimes there are some confusions that usually happen, but for now, they really just banned out the Roger instantly. No confusion there whatsoever. They know that they do not want to deal with the Roger of Vinci, and they've taken
Virology
it
is my
away. I
proud
kind of like the
team.
Diggy
Diggy is
ban, but it
winning.
also shows that you would eventually want to go in for a lot
Love
of crowd
is like
control.
blood.
So
Team is banning.
I think so. Maybe banning out the Minotaur in the early banning phase might not be a bad idea for the side of Nigeria. But here we are again, making sure that we take all of our sweet time. Get another ban up on board, and it's going to be the Xbox. Maybe the Fredrin now by Nigeria to ban it out, and maybe pick up a Harith early on. That could be possible.
Kindness
There's
is
the
the
Yu
surest
Zhong
path
though. They
to
don't want to deal with
ruination.
BMK's Yu Zhong. They've been pretty annoyed by it. So a respect ban coming in, but again,
See
on the other
value
side,
in
there's a
me?
lot of options. And
Then
yes, as I was
you
guessing, the
should.
Fredrin's going to be banned out in the first banning phase. But are they going to pick up the Akai? Maybe not. They pick up Crest Rizla yet again. Crest was pretty annoying on the Khalid, but they lock in his Terizla so very quickly. Kind of want to see what's going to be the answer for Nigeria. If they really just want to go in with their standard Akai first pick, or are they going to prioritize the Harith into that lane? But as I mentioned previously, that if the Diggy has been banned up, then Ivory Coast would really want to go in with some insane amount of crowd control. And I mentioned how Nigeria should ban out the Minotaur. It has been left open, and Flash could pick it up. But Vinci locks in an early carry into the gold lane along with the Minotaur, so releasing their game plan early on.
Guess who's the
Soul Reaper will be locking his own Lilia yet again, just like the previous game. They kind of want to have the same idea as what they had previously. I don't really feel like they're gonna lock in the exact same picks whatsoever, because again, Flash is out there who's got the Minoan Fury. If you really have a lineup that just wants to jump in fully, I think so that's not going to work out really well. Maybe they could lock in the Martis if they want to. Maybe the Barats, a good option if they want to lock in their jungler early on. But alright, they're gonna stick with the Martis as we were talking about it. I kind of want to pick up the exact same draft of the previous game, but BMK this time locks in the Mincithar for that EXP lane. Will be facing Crest on the Terizla. So Mincithar's main job is going to be just to brick wall the lane, to try and not let Crest move out of control or farm out of control. So he'll just be there clearing it out and then moving back into the team fights, because his utility lies in the King's Calling. His utility lies in the hook that he has. So he really needs to land it on either Soul Reaper or maybe the Marksman that Nigeria would want to pick up. But a bit of an unorthodox draft that we not usually see, but I kind of like the idea and I like the way where they're leaning on to. They also ban away the Nathan. Now, kind of want to see what is going to be the next ban onto the side of Nigeria. The ban of the Barats, all right, choking in the junglers. A good idea coming in from both of the sides, but again, are they going to still choke in the jungler, or they're going to choke in the Roma for this one, right? Because they've already banned out the Nathan. Understandable. They can try and ban the Claude. Not quite necessary yet again. So they can maybe take away a Roma. Maybe they could ban out something along the lines of a Mathilda, which could provide a lot of mobility to Soul Reaper as well as Hades, and kind of works out pretty well with Crest as well on that Terizla. I think so Mathilda ban should be good in this situation, but if they really want to ban out Chip, they can also ban in the
Always on
Chip.
the way.
But yeah, it's a Mathilda as I was talking about. pans out really well with the entire draft that
Your path.
Nigeria was going towards with, but Louis being taken away, choking down that mage. Love the idea how they are pulling the drafting in, but again, if this Harith is logged in, then it means it's going to be a Harith into the jungle. Now that is quite intriguing. Unless, of course, they would want to just remove that retribution and put the Harith on with the Purify or maybe the Vengeance into the mid lane. But I still feel Harith gets the maximum value into that goal for which they already have locked in Vinci Scary. But if they lock in right now, it kinda would also ruin or hinder the plans of Nigeria, because they might have been looking to lock in Harith a bit late in this draft, but they might just lose the opportunity now. And yes, it's Harith logged in, and it's Angie who's picked up Harith, so that means it's going to be the Harith into the jungle. But Aizen still has got his opportunity for the Beatrix. Did not shine in the game number 1. Maybe could eventually shine here right now, but I would love the Lolita pick. Everyone would just want to jump in, trying to take down the members of Nigeria, and they've got all of the kiting that they really need with Hades, with Soul Reaper. Crest can be super tanky on that Terizla. And if there's the Lolita logged in for Rockstar, I would want to see the Norman Blast setups, but what's going to be the marksman for Aizen is the big question, is the main question.
I will protect you.
I kind of would have loved a Brody in this situation, or maybe a Claude, but Aizen still locks in the Beatrix. Trusting the instincts. The mage pick for Shen now. I would feel a Yves could be a good answer. Maybe if he really can land in those Astral Recalls, then a Novaria. Something along the lines which has basically got some range, because there's no one to close in that gap. But Shen still locks in the Valir. Still wants to play in for the Searing Torrent, wants to play in for the Fireballs. We'll have to see how it eventually pans out for their side. The draft has been set, ladies and gentlemen. Crest on the Terizla. Soul Reaper on the Lilia. Hades on the Martis. Rockstar on Lolita. Aizen on the Beatrix. With Flash on the Minotaur. Vinci on Carry. BMK is the man who's going to be on Minsathar. Like the idea of them putting Shen onto the Valero while Angie picking up the Harith into the jungle. I've tried it. It works. You need to clear the lanes perfectly. Your rotation needs to be perfect and on time. And with that, you would eventually be able to have some good amount of damage. But Harith, rather than being a very objective focused jungler, is the one that focuses on those fights. Now, that is going to be the crucial part. So I want to see how this will eventually pan out, ladies and gentlemen. We are back in the land of dawn. Nigeria on the blue side, taking on Ivory Coast on the red side. It's your voice Idiot bringing you the action. You all are watching the IESF World Esports Championship, Road to Riyadh. And it's the last opportunity for these teams to close out this match. It has basically turned down into a best of one, with both teams winning one game each. And it's down to this last one to close things out. A good amount of damage being done by Aizen onto Vinci with the Renner, but kind of missing up a couple of shots onto those minions. It's absolutely fine, does not matter a lot as long as it's not the cannon. Flash and Shin as well joining into the action. And again, the only thing that Nigeria right now have to do is just follow up the foots of Flash. They kind of want to see where Flash would want to rotate and go in for those setup plays, because I think so Rockstar is pretty solid in terms of that re-engage, right? Because their front line is there. Hades will be just kiting around all the crowd control with the Mortal Coil, while as well as Soul Reaper on the Lilia has got the black shoes to run out of the harm's way. And that is the time where you kind of bait in the members of Ivory Coast in an awkward position and then use the Norman Blast to go in for those re-engages. I kind of want to see the plays being made like that, though. On the other end of the spectrum, down over towards the bot is where again the lane clearing is coming in from Crest. There we go, again that boring EXP lane matchup, but BMK is just not losing his minions whatsoever. They're kind of trying to position themselves in a situation to forced out the members of Ivory Coast from the turtle pit, from the river. That has kind of been helping them as well. But as I mentioned, Angie on the Harith is not more of an objective-based jungler. He's more like the damage jungler where you want to take those fights left, right, and center. The Salmon Force has been used up and Angie steals it away as well with the King's Calling, and a hook lands perfectly onto the people. But again, the stun is brilliant. Impeccable form in Norman Blast, and the re-engage is even better as they take both Angie out of the picture along with BMK. Pretty low HP on Hades and Soul Reaper, but it's absolutely fine as long as they survive. Phenomenal approach coming in from their side again, and that clearly shows you the point that I mentioned, that they want the Norman Blast for the re-engage, and that is exactly what they did. And that is how important level 4 is for your team, and specifically for the one that Nigeria have brought in this draft. It is heavily level 4 dependent draft where you've got some insane ultimates to use up. While on the other side for Ivory, they really have a Harith who kinda, if you itemize really well, you pull up a Hero's Ring and the Azure Blade, you can go in for those quick dashes during the Zaman Force. Now that's the kind of itemization that I'm looking forward to from Angie. Otherwise, you would have to wait for the entire Calamity Reaper. That takes a bit of a time. So you get basically that extra bit of cooldown from the Hero's Ring. Plus, you can also make up the Oracle later on. So it kind of helps out in that as well. But hey, we're going to be waiting to see how they eventually go in for their own engagements. But again, the level 4 power spike for Nigeria is intense. Ivory Coast would again have to play in for their mid to late game win conditions where BMK would be scaling up and Vinci on the carry would be scaling up. Now, I'm assuming BMK would make the Trinity build on the Minsata. I kind of want to see him go the tanky route rather than the full Trinity. Norman Blast used up. Angie will be moving backwards because yet again, it was casted preemptively by Rockstar. He wanted to catch him, but he was already inside the enemy tower, was taking a bit of a damage. Hence, moving backwards, Zaman Force being used up to dodge out all of the hammer throws. There we go, the Minion Fury coming into the play as well as we see the Kings calling out in the open. Crest been taken down already. Some good spear being used up to try and catch the people. Hades pretty low in that HP, will have to run away. The double kill comes in for Angie, and now Hades will be in his own clutches. The Scat with the claws is tearing apart Nigeria. Angie with a 3k with a triple kill will secure the turtle this time around, and that is just as I mentioned, ladies and gentlemen. You want the Harith to take those fights, to fight against the opponent and then slow down their farm. He's a very kill-focused jungler. And then you transition it towards the neutral objectives. But on towards the bottom is again where the things will start to change. Crest needs to land in some perfect penalty zones, and since I love the idea from Ivory Coast because Nigeria used up their Norman Blast in the previous fight, and that's when they decided to jump in and go in for their re-engage with the Minoan Fury. So the ultimate of these roamers are going to be super crucial. There we go, Zaman Force yet again with a Chrono Dash trying to land in all the perfect time. The Flicker Norman Blast connects on the perfect target. Angie seems to be in trouble, but the decimation is there. Enough true damage for just one basic attack to do the trick, and everyone on the side of Ivory Coast will have to retreat. But there we go, stun into the tower as well. He still wants to jump in using Mortal Coils. Another pick by Aizen. He's just in way too deep, but there's absolutely no one to dish out the damage, no one to go for the punish. Such a lovely rotation coming in from Nigeria. Cutting off that, catching Angie as he already used up the Zaman Force. And now the transition, all of that towards the bottom side, because over towards the top is where we'll see Crest play. And we'll see Aizen going down bottom. Before that, they kind of want to do a bit of a chip damage onto that mid tier 1. Like the idea how they're kind of pushing it, but there we go. Another fight being taken, but a perfect dodge by Hades with the Mortal Coil. Zaman Force being brought in as well. Norman Blast should be there to connect on the perfect target, but he catches two at the edge. Not the two who are dashing around. Hades will have to move back yet again. BMK, no more King's Calling available for the man. Almost all the ultimates have been used up apart from Vinci with the dual light wheels of carry. They're still there, but he does not have enough items to go in for that damage. There's already the Black Shoes available for Soul Reaper, so he will still be exchanging blows. but does not want to see himself being blown apart by Shin with those fireballs, so eventually will move backwards. Another turtle now being forced in by Angie on that Harith, and look at Chris tanking every single thing, the retribution. Angie secures the turtle as well as now the King's Calling finally available. Will that be invested? Absolutely yes, as they want to take the life of Crest. They want to open this Crest and then save themselves some trouble. The Norman Blast standing on 2 as well with the decimation now connecting. Rockstar still finds the pick. 7th force being brought in yet again. Angie stunned up, needs to dash it out, but he does not have enough damage to deal or take the life of the ones in front of him. But in the meantime, beautiful timing being found by Vinci, who takes down the mid tier 1, basically giving the access to the jungle of Nigeria. But Ivory Coast, I don't think so they've got enough damage to capitalize on the back of it. We'll still see how things will eventually turn out, because yet again there's a decent amount of damage being dealt from both the sides. They're exchanging blows for blows. It's 5 kills to 5 kills and just a few hundred gold lead for the side of Ivory. Good amount of damage being dealt onto Vinci, who's trying to just run away now, trying to survive, but Soul Reaper was there. Had Vinci been recalling in that bush, he would have been obliterated with the Shadow Energy Bombs. Just a bit of an HP left on the tier 1 of that top side, so it is going to fall eventually. But mid is where we'll again be looking. We'll again be focusing our attention, because over on towards the bottom is where Crest will be in an off position. We'll be just playing a bit more aggressively. That's about it. This pause is important because again, Nigeria, their win conditions in this game is making sure Aizen farms upon this Beatrix. And then of course, Soul Reaper does not die whatsoever. That's literally their mid to late game win condition. They want to land in the Norman Blast and then pair it up with the crowd control that comes in from Hades, along with Crest on the Terizla, and they need to time it so perfectly that it lands one after the other, giving no time to Ivory Coast to try and use any of their skills. Because again, there's no Purify on their side. It's all Flicker and Angie on that Retribution. But we see yet another engagement. Penalty zone used up preemptively to catch Angie, and that is a perfect catch as the King's Calling was brought in, but a bit too late. There's a knock-up coming in yet again, but they still try to take them down one after the other as the decimation from Hades lands in perfectly and gets the double as well onto BMK. Phenomenal one coming in from their side. Beautiful back and forth exchange whatsoever. We're going to see the Lord being taken now, and Nigeria seems to be the one who've got that massive advantage. And it's again all starting with that penalty zone that landed on Angie. Harith could not do anything. But again, the win condition, as we were mentioning, is going to be Vinci on that carry. Trinity already completed, but I love the itemization that's coming in from Aizen this time around, with the Sea Halberd being picked up as the first item, and then moving in with the Malefic Roar as well as the Harsh Claw. You've got a good amount of heal, you've got a good amount of burst damage, you've got some good amount of anti-heal as well effect being taken on to make sure that Flash is not healing his team a lot. At least it's going to be half. And yes, Minotaur's skill 2 provides the heal, everyone, for the ones who were wondering out there. But yet again, here we're going to see the engage coming in. Maybe they've got a perfect catch onto this one as Angie finds himself in an awkward position, tries to jump in with his arm and force yet again. But perfect Norman Blast catches him. King's Calling being brought in to catch Hades, but an amazing hook coming in. And with that, BMK gets a double, make it a triple as well, because the King's Calling was immense. And the hook, even more impeccable. There was no Crest to bail them out this time around, and he himself needs some support. Seems to be in trouble, but will land back towards the tier 3, over towards that bottom side. The Lord was taken out quickly, and it does not even matter. Ivory Coast catching an insane fish. And in the meantime, Vinci just obliterates Soul Reaper in that top side, and with those dual light wheels, he's going to be taking that inhibitor. As easy as you move your finger through the melted chocolate. And then eat that chocolate, of course. Finally, the pace yet again has been slowed down. I mean, this series has been so insane. Back and forth, we always go. 36,000 gold. Both of the teams are so very equal, and even in terms of tower, this is as close as it could get. But the positioning needs to be impeccable. For now, Flicker being used by Rockstar to jump out of the harm's way. Just a bit of kiting around going in for both of these teams, exchanging blows back and forth. But in terms of the side lane pressure, again, everything is just so very equal. Nigeria have lost 2 on the top. But at the same time, they've got a couple on the bottom. While if you're looking from the side of Ivory Coast, they've lost 1 on the top, and they've taken 2 on that side as well. So it basically brings us all the way down to the even Steven territory. Another Lord now, you can see positioning. This could be dangerous. Flash had to use the Flicker to survive. A big spell being used out, but now neither of the roams have got that Flicker, right? And they're trying to burst down the Lord so very quickly. Zaman Force being used up as well. There we go, the Normal Blast connecting, but still Angie was the one who takes the Lord quickly with the King's Calling, as already BMK is making sure to take care of 2. Crest finally will get some of his HP back. Maybe not enough. Everyone wants to join into the fight, join into the action, and yet again, it is Aizen who deals the damage, saves the life of his own teammate. Ivory Coast losing out onto their EXP laner, BMK. I kind of want to have a look at his items that he's building. Because dealing so much damage to Crest on that Rizla, using a Minsithar? I guess I need to take some notes for my rank games now after this one. But an insane play being made. We'll have to see how things are going to move forward. Slowly and steadily is what you normally see things happen. Take away their buffs as well. Not a single turret lost from that Lord attack. Did not give them a lot of value out there. Crest now picks up the War Axe as well. Really want to have a look at the items again, just as I've mentioned. Angie, after that triple kill, has been kept quiet, and he's been on a death spree. Necklace of Durance being picked up by Soul Reaper. So a lot more of that anti-heal effect will now be in those team fights, which is going to affect BMK, who's been having a bit of a heal back for himself. Angie as well on that Harith, who kind of relies onto the lifesteal as well as the shield that he gets. But that key, that passive, it is one of the most crucial things. In the meantime, over towards the bot is where BMK was able to quickly steal away the tower from under the noses of Nigerian players, which they would have to focus down on because the lane pressure is still in favor of Ivory Coast. They're the ones whose minions are pushing the lanes. An insane hook by BMK. Catches Soul Reaper as he already had used his Purify because he was caught in the King's Calling. A lovely use. A bait of Purify and then a catch on the back of it. But there we go. The Zaman Force now finally comes in along with a decent amount of damage that he's trying to deal. But again, the big, tanky, chunky frontline tries to catch 2 in that penalty zone. But again, would not be able to, as Crest will finally fall. As well as Aizen pretty low in that HP. Chrono Dash still there. A lot of damage. Rockstar needs to survive. But his immortality will be popped in. Another Zaman Force comes in off the cooldown. But the shield saves the life of Rockstar. But the hook catches Hades, who will move out of the harm's way using the mortal coils, but they lose the mid inhibitor, and now we lose the bottom inhibitor. Beautiful approach from Ivory Coast. Slowly and steadily moving forward. Yet again, another Zaman Force into the King's Calling, trying to stop any kind of dash. No shenanigans from Rockstar this time, who's been taken out, going supernova like the star, but no one being in the vicinity to get caught in it. And after that pick, they quickly leave things be and move to steal away the luminous Lord. Nigeria I don't think so. They've got enough front line to try and go in for that steal. Shane is out there for the watchman duty, making sure that there's no one coming close whatsoever. 1-0 and 9 on this Valier, doing so much for them, bringing in so much crowd control with the Searing Torrent, with those constant stuns from the fireballs. Lord is going to march down from that mid. They need to manage the waves perfectly, but they've already cleared out the wave, at least not the cannon minion. Will be doing so in the meantime. Top minions have been cleared out, so the Lord will be marching in. A bit of a mismanagement, but it's absolutely fine. They still need to take care of all of them. Side angle being used by Rockstar, catching no one in that. No one on blast, and now there comes in the trouble as a hook lands in yet again perfectly along with the penalty zone. Trying to catch someone, no one allowed to be there as the penalty zone was cancelled out because of the King's calling. You can't do anything in that dashless area. Decent damage. No, maybe a lot more than decent, as again Angie gets one more. And Ivory Coast with that double kill on the back of Angie will get the crystal and will get this series in their name. A long one we were a part of, but finally at the end we see the winners. It is Ivory Coast who close things out. Beautiful performance coming in from their side. But at the end of the day, I would have to say a valiant effort being brought in from the side of Nigeria. I loved the way how they were playing, loved their drafting as well. Just a few things, a few calls that they kind of needed to work upon. But apart from that, they were doing a phenomenal job. And it was so much fun to witness this match. And I feel privileged to be the one casting this one. But yes, playing to the win condition has always been the name of the game, and that's exactly what Ivory Coast did. Late game is their territory. Their endurance is something else. Their tenacity is out of this world, and that is what they showcased in all of these three games. Yes, Nigeria was able to take one. They could have taken game number one had just a few items been taken prior to what they were going in for the buildings, but it's absolutely fine. A good competition is all we love to see, and this is what we got. An amazing match that we witnessed, ladies and gentlemen, but that's about it. As all good things come to an end, this one as well has reached its destination. This is me, Skadiet, and you all were watching the most amazing IESF World Esports Championship Road to Riyadh. It was Ivory Coast winning against the sides of Nigeria. And in order to witness the same action, make sure to hit that subscribe button, click on the follow as well, hit the bell notification to catch all of that tomorrow. Same time, this is me, Skadiet, signing off. Have a good evening.